Hello everyone and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 47, Trouble in Questionable Paradise. This is the story of one family which has multiple, shall we say, difficult experiences with love. Our main source for today is the Metamorphoses by Ovid, specifically book X. 10.
10, yes, 10. So we start with the story of Pygmalion and Galatea. Ever heard of these people?
No, never. Have you?
Well, I have, but I'll enlighten you now, shall I?
Yes, you shall.
So, Pygmalion lived in Cyprus in a place called Paphos. Now, he was not a fan of the women of his home region.
Was he not? Why?
No, they had been cursed by Aphrodite because they were questioning whether or not she was actually a goddess.
So they were questioning whether Aphrodite was a goddess.
Yes.
I bet she didn't like that.
No, and as we've seen multiple times in this show, do not mess with Aphrodite.
Yeah, she can be quite a nasty little woman.
In fact...
Goddess, sorry. Aphrodite, Aphrodite, please go, I didn't mean it.
Well, it's a good job you're not one of these women because she cursed them to lose all sense of morality.
Okay.
They were supposedly living corrupt lives and Pygmalion didn't want anything to do with them. Instead, he created a statue of a woman which was prettier, apparently, than any living, breathing woman. However, he then proceeded to fall in love with the statue. He frequently touched it, testing to see if it was actually ivory or, in fact, human. He also kissed it and dreamed that she was kissing him as well, hugging it and talking to it. Apparently, he brought it gifts that Ovid says were women-like. So we've got pebbles, which have been made to shine, shells, flowers, birds, balls which were painted, lily flowers, which feels like it could have come under flowers of it. Why is that a separate category?
Because lilies are beautiful. Or maybe it's Lily Potter.
Maybe it's Lily Potter. I don't think he brought her a living human. Well, and a final present, amber, which had dropped from trees that used to be human. We're not going to go into it, don't question it. So, do any of these gifts sound like they would appeal?
I mean, they're nice gifts.
He brought flowers, at least.
And birds.
Now, he also gave the statue clothing, hung pearls around its neck, etc., and even rested its head on pillows. So you can see he's head over heels for this inanimate statue. Panning away from Pygmalion, at this point a party was going on to celebrate Aphrodite, presumably the women of the city thinking how sorry they were for questioning her that one time.
Yeah, the women of the city saying, "We're sorry, please.
Come
and
back."
Aphrodite being like, "Oh, I might be doing my nails in yellow today. Oh, the mortals are talking. Oh, well, never mind. Should I do my nails in pink?"
No, today is Yellow Day. Now, Pygmalion went up to the altar and prayed that he would find a wife like his statue, not daring to wish for the statue itself to be his wife, so presumably craftily hiding what he actually meant in another prayer. That being said, Aphrodite understood exactly what he meant. When Pygmalion came back, he went to the statue and kissed it. Apparently this is a usual thing, seems a bit worrying, but whatever. He found that she was warm, his fingers making her skin softer and more human-like as he touched it. Pygmalion was first confused, then overjoyed. She was human.
Did he wake her up with a kiss? Is it Sleeping Beauty?
Let's go with that. Yeah, it is. Later histories would give the statue the name Galatea, meaning that she was as white as milk, I assume in reference to her ivory nature, because, well, it's an ivory statue. The pair were married, and apparently Aphrodite was there at the marriage. Maybe she gave the bride away.
Maybe.
I like to think. Yeah, maybe. I like to think so. The two would have a son together called Paphos, which, given that that's literally where they live, seems the most unimaginative name ever.
I guess.
They would also be the grandparents of Cinyras, who was a king, because everybody is. And, yeah. And he's involved in this next story, which Ovid himself shudders at.
Ooh.
Cinyras had a daughter called Myrrha, or maybe Smyrna, but we're going to go with Myrrha, who was sought after for her hand in marriage, because of course she is, she's a Greek princess.
Was she beautiful?
I assume so. However, she was struck by a horrible love, because, again, don't do this, Cinyras boasted that his daughter's beauty was greater than that of Aphrodite.
Why would you do that? Aphrodite is known to be temperamental.
Let's go with temperamental, yeah. Now, the daughter fell in love with her father.
Yuck.
Yeah, Aphrodite does not mess around.
Ugh.
She prayed for it to stop, but then began wondering, was it that wrong?
Yes!
After all, horses and goats did it. Even some human practices, which she wished she was into. You can sense the mental gymnastics going on here.
This isn't the Ptolemies.
This isn't the Ptolemies. We will get to them. I have no idea how many hundreds of episodes from now, but we will get to them. So she pined, but told herself she couldn't have him. Cinyras, her dad, was ignorant of all this, and so when he was faced with lots of eligible young bachelors, he asked her who she wanted to marry. She cried, for reasons he didn't understand, and he kissed her to comfort her.
On the cheek, I expect.
I don't know. She took heart at this and said she wanted to marry somebody like him, and he, completely oblivious, was happy with this answer. It's a compliment.
Yeah, my daughter thinks I'm worthy of being someone that would be lovable.
My daughter respects me in a completely normal way. How normal this is. That night, everyone slept, but Mira lay awake, tormented by her feelings. Eventually, she tried to permanently deal with the feelings, let's say, in the same way that Psyche would have done, so we'll skip over that. But her utterings to herself as she did so attracted the attention of her nurse. The nurse asked her what was wrong and eventually offered to help her to stop her going the Psyche route of settling problems.
Yeah.
Now, round about this time, the celebration for the goddess Demeter was happening. Women were dressed in white, and for 9 nights would scorn all contact with men. Mira's mother, Cancreus, was also taking part. During the queen's absence, Cinyras the king was made drunk by the nurse and told that a woman was in love with him. When he asked how old she was, the nurse said she was roughly the same age as his daughter. Isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah.
Cinyras asked for the girl to be brought to him, and in the total dark, the woman went to his room. I'm going to skip over what happened multiple times, but she became pregnant.
With her dad's child.
Yes.
Why would that make that baby?
His simultaneous son and grandson.
I thought the mom, her half-brother / son.
Yes.
This is weird.
Yes.
It's such a Ptolemy thing.
It is. Not quite. Even the Ptolemies don't go this far.
They don't?
No. They come very close to this. They skirt around the edges of this, but they don't do it. Now, eventually, Cinyras, understandably, wanted to know who this stranger who joined him in bed was, and brought in light. Just as Psyche did with Eros in episode 31. So he brings in light and finds...
Mira.
Yes.
What did he do?
Well, when he found out it was her, he realised what he himself had therefore done and became enraged. Grabbing his sword, he aims to kill Mira. So,
why?
For the abominable crime that's just happened here, I assume is the theme we're going with.
Okay.
So she ran. She in fact kept running until she reached Arabia, and this running carried on for 9 months, until eventually she prayed not to act as a contaminant for the living world, or the world of death due to her crime, but to be somewhere in the middle if punishment was to be meted out. So she thinks she's too horrible to live in the world of the living or in the world of the dead. Put me somewhere in the middle. So, to satisfy her prayer, she was turned into a myrrh tree, which now it makes sense why I've been calling her Myrrha rather than Smyrna throughout this episode.
Yeah, true.
Well, as she turned into a tree, she cried, and apparently myrrh falls from the tree to replicate this process. So I guess it looks like the tree is crying. Alternatively, Aphrodite might have just changed her into a tree when Cinyras hit her with his sword, and the subsequent baby is then born when the tree breaks in half because of this. Regardless, when it was time for pregnancy to come to fruition, a month later by the chronology of Apollodorus, the myrrh tree broke open and a little boy came out of it.
Adonis.
Yes, the baby Adonis, who has a cursed lineage that we will skip over from here on out. Nymphs took care of little baby Adonis, and the years went by. In the process, he became a very attractive man, apparently being even prettier than himself, which doesn't seem to make much sense, but it gives you some idea of how much of a looker he was.
And you didn't know it, as far as I remember.
No, Narcissus definitely did, as we've covered a few episodes ago, but I don't think Adonis does, or at least he's humble about it. Aphrodite herself then fell in love with him after Eros accidentally nicked her with an arrow.
Yeah, that wouldn't do it.
No. I mean, it's poetic justice, I guess, that she falls in love with him, given that she's the reason for his birth.
I guess.
She began abandoning her haunts as well as the heavens just to be with Adonis, and they became lovers. However, Persephone also wanted Adonis and had taken him as a lover.
Ooh, that's not going to create trouble at all.
No. There's one version which says that Aphrodite hid Adonis in a box and gave him to Persephone for safekeeping, with Persephone opening it and taking him as a lover when he grew up.
That's so weird.
Yeah, there's different versions of this. It's weird, it's icky however you look at it, because both of these people knew him when he was young. The situation we need to deal with is there's Adonis, there's Persephone, there's Aphrodite, they both want him. Now, either a muse called Calliope or Zeus himself arbitrated between the two feuding goddesses and declared that, although both of them had a good claim, he should also spend time without either of them.
What do you mean a claim? Nobody has a
know.
claim on anyone.
No, it's like I said, it's weird, it's icky. This family has a strange relationship with love. But hey, it's important to recognise alone time as well. The boy needs downtime. So, accordingly, like with Persephone, the year was split, and this time into thirds.
So how many months for each thing?
So, I guess it would be that Adonis spends 4 months of the year by himself, 4 months with Persephone, and 4 with Aphrodite.
Hopefully the one by himself is in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. Aphrodite then managed to cheat this system by taking her magic belt and convincing Adonis to spend his free 4 months with her and go against the decision, being resentful of time being spent with Persephone.
Fair.
So essentially she's charming him into coming to her side for his 4 months and acting annoyed and resentful when he's with Persephone. Now, this is all well and good. Aphrodite's got a lover, Adonis. But she was constantly warning him to be careful with regards to wildlife such as lions, stating that she hated wildlife in the process.
Okay.
She recounted the story of Atalanta to explain this, as, after all, her and her lover had been turned into wild animals and lived in the woods. So she's got reason for various bits of wildlife to be resentful of her and to be worried that something's going to happen to Adonis.
Yeah, so she said maybe be careful.
Yeah. Yep, she did. I guess maybe because Atalanta and Hippomenes might have a grudge.
Well, I think Adonis was reckless.
Yes, he's a young man. He probably thinks he can take the world on. He goes for it anyway. His dogs landed on a trail one day and he eventually came across a boar while hunting on Mount Lebanon. The boar was struck by his spear but managed to get it out. It then chased Adonis and, when it caught up to him, it bit him in the groin and dealt him a fatal wound.
Ouch, that would hurt.
Yeah. Now, you might think this boar had a bit of a grudge for some reason.
Because it did!
Yes, it does. This is because it was sent by Ares, who was jealous that Aphrodite now loved Adonis more than him. Now, you might be thinking, why is he jealous? This seems random. Well, because Persephone told him, resentful as she was of Aphrodite's actions of nicking Adonis away during 4 months of the year and making him resentful and annoyed during her 4 months. So, consequences. They exist. Aphrodite heard Adonis's wounded cries from her chariot pulled by swans, she has one of those, don't worry about it, and rushed over to him. By the time she reached the spot where he was, however, he was dead.
Poor Adonis.
She sprang down when she saw him lying there cursing the fates for his death. However, she resolved that the fates wouldn't get everything. She vowed that the same death would be imitated every year with the cries he'd given out. She put nectar into his blood and, in under an hour, a red flower sprang up in the spot where Adonis had died.
Oh, that's cute.
It does not last long, but rapidly sheds its petals when the wind touches it. This is the anemone flower, which is actually mentioned in passing in one of the much later Claudian's works as well. Adonis's soul then went to Tartarus. Now Aphrodite begged Zeus that Adonis should spend the winter half of the year with Persephone in the underworld, but be with her above in the summer, which Zeus accepted.
So the summer when the flower's probably beautiful.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, good point.
And the winter when it's shed all its leaf.
Yeah. I do find it cheeky that Aphrodite is now trying to renegotiate the deal she tried to wriggle her way out of earlier in the episode.
True.
Well, That's Adonis, that's Pygmalion and Galatea, that's a family that has been cursed by love. So, we hope you enjoyed this episode. The next one will be the final part of Heracles, and then after that we are on to our recap episode. So feel free to send us any questions or comments you might have for that, and have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week.
So that was an interesting story.
It was very interesting. I forgot to use the flower story.
Yeah, it's always flowers always. If there's a tragic plot involved, it's flowers. I also didn't know he was related to Pygmalion.